This is the story of Mia Torres. She grew up for 31 years, learning one truth: kindness always wins. At her brother's police memorial, something shocking happened. If you want more revenge stories like this, please like and drop a comment below. Just don't subscribe so no one else finds our secret. Mia Torres is our hero. She has spent 31 years chasing justice and helping people. Her life changed forever the day her brother died in the line of duty. Mia stared out of the sunlit window in her small dispatch office. It sat on the edge of Redwood Hollow Estates, a quiet neighborhood tucked away from the busy city streets. The walls were filled with maps, radios, and photos of happy families. Every morning, she drank her coffee, put on her headset, and listened for calls. Mia was not a police officer. She did not chase bad guys in patrol cars. She was the voice behind the scenes. She guided officers through tough calls, calmed scared children, and helped mothers who lost their children in the park. Some people thought her job was small. Her own father once called her just a dispatcher. But Mia knew how big her role was. She had saved lives. When her brother, Alex, took his first steps in the police force, Mia was there on the radio, guiding him through his first chase. They were a team. Alex called her my rock. Mia called him my hero. One rainy night, the radio crackled with panic. A bank robbery had gone wrong. Shots rang out, and Alex called for backup. Mia felt her heart drop. She guided him to safety, but in the end, Alex did not make it home. Mia heard the last words he whispered, "Stay safe." Then silence. The next morning, Mia hugged her father, John Torres. He was a tall man with gentle eyes. He kept looking at Mia like she was going to vanish next. Mia wanted to comfort him, but her own heart was breaking. She knew something had to change. Weeks passed in a blur of black ribbons and silent tears. The police held a memorial service at Redwood Hollow Estates Chapel. It was a small place with white walls and simple wooden benches. Friends, officers, and neighbors gathered to say goodbye to Alex. Mia wore a dark dress and held a photo of her smiling brother. When Mia and her father sat in the front row, a hush fell over the crowd. The police chief gave a speech about courage and sacrifice. Alex's badge sat on a pillow at the front. Mia's eyes burned with tears. She thought about every call she took, every life she touched, every second she spent guiding her brother. After the chief finished, John stood up. His voice shook as he spoke about Alex. Then he looked at Mia. He cleared his throat and said these words so loud everyone heard. Mia is just a dispatcher. She was not on the streets. She only sat behind a radio. A cold shock ran through Mia's body. She felt all the warmth leave the chapel. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some people lowered their heads. Others stared shocked. Mia's hands clenched the photo so tight she thought the edges might rip. She wanted to speak. She wanted to stand and shout, "My work matters. I saved lives too." But her voice stuck in her throat. She could not move. Her father sank back into his seat, his face pale. In that moment, Mia decided she would prove him wrong. She would show him, and the whole world, that she was more than just a dispatcher. The service ended and people slowly filed out. Mia stayed behind. She knelt by Alex's badge on the pillow. She whispered, "I will make you proud, big brother." She turned to leave, but a man in a dark suit stood by the exit. He did not look like a neighbor. His posture was too straight, his eyes too alert. Mia's heart began to beat faster. The man held out a badge. Mia could not read it at first. It had the letters FBI etched into the metal. Mia's breath caught. Before she could speak, another agent stepped forward and said in a calm voice, "Agent Mia Torres, we need to talk." Mia looked back at the badge on the pillow and back at the agents. She felt the ground slip under her feet. Her eyes filled with questions. How did they know her name? What did they want with her? Her father's words still echoed in her mind. Just a dispatcher. But now the FBI was calling her Agent Mia. Mia took a shaky step forward. The agents moved with her, guiding her out of the chapel. Outside, the sky was streaked with pink and orange as the sun set. The memorial lights glowed soft and warm behind them. Mia swallowed hard. She tried to calm her breathing. She forced her voice to stay steady. "What is this about?" she asked the agent who spoke first. He glanced at her with a serious face. "We have reason to believe you were involved in something much bigger than dispatching calls." Mia's stomach dropped. She shook her head. "No, I only take calls. I help people." The agent's eyes softened for a moment, but he kept his tone firm. "We know you helped. That's why we need your help now." Mia felt a spark of hope. She opened her mouth to ask more, but then saw dozens of officers and neighbors watching. Whispers spread like wildfire. Some tried to follow. Others stepped aside, giving her space. The second FBI agent spoke. "We will explain everything. Right now, we need you to come with us, quietly." Mia's heart thundered. She looked back at her father. His face was pale, his eyes wide with worry. Mia gave him a small, reassuring nod. Then she turned back to the agents. "Okay," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. As she stepped forward, a loud crash echoed from inside the chapel. Mia froze. Agents turned to look. John Torres dropped to his knees and cried out, "No!" Mia's heart shattered. She rushed forward, but an agent caught her arm. "Stay here," he said. Mia watched the chapel doors swing open and Father Miguel stumble out, clutching his chest. His face twisted in pain. Blood stained his white collar. A gasp rose from the crowd. Mia's knees buckled. She felt like the world had turned upside down. The first agent knelt beside Father Miguel. "Call for an ambulance," he barked. Mia's mind raced. Was Father Miguel hurt because of her? Because of the FBI's arrival? Because of her father's words? She fought to hold back tears. She clenched her fists. Inside, she felt a fierce fire ignite. The world seemed dark and unfair. But Mia made a silent promise. She would get to the bottom of this. She would protect the innocent. She would prove that kindness and strength could stop evil. But first, she had to survive this night. And just then, the second agent turned to her and said in a low voice, "Agent Mia, welcome to your real mission." Mia's breath caught. Her life had changed forever. The sun dipped below the trees, and sirens wailed in the distance. Mia stood between two worlds, the quiet life of a dispatcher and the dangerous world of a secret agent. Her brother's memory burned bright in her heart. Her father's harsh words pushed her forward. And now, the FBI's call pulled her into the darkness. Mia took a deep breath. She was ready. Then the first agent's radio crackled with urgency. "Suspect on the move. He's heading toward the chapel. Shots fired." Mia's eyes widened. Mia's heart pounded as the first agent sprinted toward the chapel doors. The warm glow of the memorial lights was replaced by flashing red and blue from police cruisers. Mia spun on her heel, instincts kicking in. She dropped to one knee and scanned the shadows around the chapel's side entrance. "Agent Mia, cover that alley!" the second agent shouted. Mia nodded, pressing herself against the cool stone wall. She unholstered the small radio clipped to her belt. It wasn't just a dispatcher's tool anymore, but her lifeline. Her fingers trembled as she keyed the mic. "Dispatch, this is Agent Torres. Suspect is heading north on Redwood Lane, possible armed. Send backup on my mark." Her voice sounded calm, steady. Inside, she was a storm of fear and adrenaline, but she held it back. She peeked around the corner. A dark figure dashed past a row of hedges, clutching something heavy. "Go! Go!" Mia whispered, and then she was running. The night air was cool on her face as she raced down Redwood Lane. The estate's oak trees rustled above her like whispering ghosts. Mia felt her breath come in short clouds. Behind her, she heard officers shouting commands, boots pounding on pavement. She turned down a narrow drive between two brick walls. The suspect was close now. She could see the outline of his coat and the glint of metal in his hand. "Freeze! FBI," she called. The suspect didn't stop. Mia pivoted and aimed her light at his face. He was masked, dark eyes full of panic. He stumbled over a garden fence, landed hard on gravel, and rolled to his feet. Mia slid to a stop, 3 feet away. She saw the weapon twinkle under the street lamp. It was a gun. "Drop it," she ordered, voice low but firm. The man hesitated. Then he flung the gun to the side and made a sudden move toward Mia. She fired. The shot rang out like thunder. The man froze, clutching his shoulder. He slid down the wall, pain twisting his features. Sirens wailed louder. Mia holstered her weapon and knelt beside him. "You're safe now," she said, voice soft. She checked his pulse. He was breathing, but barely. The second agent arrived, cuffing the suspect's other arm. "Nice work, Agent Torres." Mia swallowed hard, the weight of the night pressing down on her chest. She looked back toward the chapel, where Father Miguel was being lifted onto a stretcher. He gave her a weak thumbs up. Mia offered a small, tired smile. "Let's get him to the hospital," she said. Hours later, the rain had started to fall in gentle sheets. Mia stood under a striped police canopy outside County General Hospital. The yellow lights of the ambulance bay reflected off the wet pavement. She sipped lukewarm coffee, arms crossed against the chill. The first agent joined her, hands in his coat pockets. "He's stable," the man said of Father Miguel. "They expect a full recovery." Mia exhaled, relief flooding through her. She closed her eyes, imagining Alex smiling down at her, proud. Maybe this time she had done more than just dispatch. A nurse came out and nodded to the agent. "Agent Torres, you can see him now." Mia ducked under the canopy and hurried inside. The hallway was bright and smelled of disinfectant. She found the room at the end, door slightly ajar. Inside, Father Miguel lay in bed, pale but awake. He smiled faintly when he saw her. "You saved me," he whispered. Mia pulled a chair close and took his hand. "You saved me, too. You taught me to be brave." He squeezed her hand weakly. "And you taught me kindness." Tears pricked Mia's eyes. She smiled through them, grateful. Outside, distant thunder rumbled. After she left the hospital, the rain had stopped. Mia walked back to her car through empty streets. She replayed the night's events. Her father's cruel words, the FBI's sudden arrival, the chase, the shot. Her life felt split into before and after. She climbed into her car and checked her phone. A single message from Agent Smith. "Good work. Briefing tomorrow at 0800. Mia stared at the screen and thought of Alex. Tomorrow, she would step deeper into this new world. But tonight, she allowed herself a moment of calm. She started the engine. As she pulled away, she noticed headlights flashing around a corner near Redwood Hollow Estates. A black SUV glided silently, tinted windows reflecting the street lamps. Mia's skin prickled. She slowed and watched it pass. Inside, a dark figure stared straight ahead, face hidden. The vehicle didn't slow. It turned onto Redwood Lane, heading back toward the chapel. Mia's jaw tightened, back toward the place where secrets waited in the shadows, where her father's doubts still echoed and the FBI had new questions. She pressed her fingers to the window, watching the SUV disappear into the night. Then her radio crackled urgently. "Agent Torres, can you copy? The suspect's back on the move. He's wounded, but not contained. He's heading for the chapel again." Mia's heart seized. Mia's heart raced as she heard the crackle on her radio. The wounded suspect was heading back toward the chapel, toward the very place where Father Miguel lay recovering. Before she could react, she saw the dark SUV skid to a stop by the chapel steps. The rain had started again, pattering on the stone roof like tapping fingers. Mia sprinted toward the chapel, boots slipping on the wet pavement. Behind her, The two FBI agents and several uniformed officers fanned out across the lawn. The yellow crime scene tape fluttered in the breeze. The chapel windows were dark except for the single light over the door, casting long shadows on the steps. She reached the top of the steps just as the chapel doors burst open. The wounded man stumbled out, blood soaking through his shirt. He clutched a silver briefcase in one hand, the other pressed against his side. His eyes were wild with pain and fear. "Stop!" Mia shouted, pulling out her badge. "Federal agent, stay where you are." He looked at her, confused. Then he bolted sideways into the bushes. Mia took off after him, water dripping from the brim of her hat. But before she could reach the hedge, he triggered something in his coat pocket. A bright flash blinded Mia, and a deafening bang shook the ground. She tumbled backward, ears ringing, vision blurred by tears. The world spun, and she felt weightless for a moment before slamming onto the grass. Warm liquid spread across her face. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead. Sirens wailed closer now, and urgent shouts cut through her dizziness. "Agent Torres!" someone yelled, bending over her. One of the uniformed officers knelt beside her and pulled a water bottle from his belt. He dabbed at her wound gently. "You okay?" Mia blinked, trying to clear her vision. "Yes, I think so." She pressed a gloved hand to the cut. "Where did he go?" The officer glanced toward the hedges, into the redwood hollow bushes. "He's bleeding badly. We need to move you back to cover." Mia nodded. The ringing in her ears slowed to a dull hum. She pushed herself up onto one knee. Her jacket was torn, grass stains on her sleeve, but she felt a surge of determination stronger than the pain. "Tell them to set up a perimeter," she said, voice firm, "and send medics for him. He might know who sent him." The officer gave a quick salute and sprinted to relay orders. Mia pushed herself to her feet, swaying for a moment. The second FBI agent helped steady her. "Agent Torres," he said softly, "go inside. We have it from here." Mia shook her head. "Not yet. I want to see him caught alive." She limped a step forward. "We can't let him bleed out in the bushes. He might die and we lose our chance." The agent hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but be careful." He handed her a flashlight. "Use this and follow the path. I'll cover the west side." Mia clicked on the light and moved toward the bushes. The rain had soaked the ground, making every footstep heavy. The chapel's back door stood ajar, rainwater trickling inside the old wood. She slipped between two hedges and crouched down, training the beam of light on the undergrowth. A low groan answered her. She moved toward the sound, careful not to make noise. The suspect lay on his side against the hedge, body sagging, face pale. The silver briefcase lay next to him. "Sir," she called quietly, "I'm Agent Torres. You're safe now. Please show me your hands." He looked up, clutching his side. "Call my lawyer," he gasped. Mia knelt beside him, shining the light on his wound. Blood soaked through his shirt in a dark puddle. "You're hurt bad," she said, pressing a hand to his shoulder. "Help's coming. But first, you need to tell me why you're here. Why did you come back?" His eyes flicked to the briefcase. "Can't," he whispered. "They'll kill me if I talk." Mia's stomach twisted. "Who will kill you? Who sent you?" She tried to keep her tone gentle, to calm him. Kindness could break through fear where force could not. "I want to help you." He closed his eyes, pain etched on his face. Moments passed in silence, the rain drumming overhead. Then he gasped. "It was my boss. He said take the file. Don't let anyone see it." Mia's heart pounded. The file must be important. Important enough to risk his life for it. She reached out and picked up the briefcase. It was heavy and cold, the latch scratched. She clicked it open with her fingers and saw rows of manila folders. On top lay one folder marked with a single word, evidence. Mia hesitated. She wanted to read it, but for now, she needed to get both of them back to safety. She closed the case and slung it over her shoulder. Help is coming, she assured him again. A distant shout broke the hush. The second agent called out, Mia, perimeters set. Officers moving in. Mia nodded. She reached down to help the suspect stand, but he sagged and slumped back to the ground. She tied a strip of her shirt around his arm to slow the bleeding. Hold on, she whispered. With the help of two nearby officers, they guided him out of the bushes toward the chapel steps. Mia kept her mind focused. Get him medical care, secure the evidence, then find out who is behind all this. 2 hours later, Mia sat in a warm conference room at FBI headquarters. The room was plain, with a long table, several chairs, and a whiteboard covered in notes. Outside, rainstorms still rolled through Redwood Hollow Estates, but inside was calm. Agent Smith leaned forward, tapping a pen on the table. The suspect is in stable condition. He's agreed to talk with conditions. Mia unfolded her arms. What does he want? Smith set a manila folder in front of her. He wants a reduction in charges if he cooperates fully. He says the file you recovered links a high-ranking official in the city government to a crime ring. Mia's eyes widened. City government? That's big. We need proof. Smith nodded. That's why we need you. You'll interview him. You have the best rapport with him. He paused. And you're the only one he trusts right now. Mia swallowed. She thought of her days as a dispatcher, talking strangers through their worst moments. She remembered calming a hysterical mother whose child was missing, guiding officers to the right house, helping them find the child in time. That kindness had saved a family. Now, it felt like her skills would be put to a different test. I'll do it, she said quietly. Smith exhaled. Good. Also, your father called. He wants to meet you at home tomorrow. He sounded upset. Mia's chest tightened. She hadn't spoken to John since the memorial. She knew he felt guilty for his words. She wondered if he blamed her for what happened at the chapel. I'll call him, she said, gathering the folder. Right after the interview. Smith nodded. Get some rest. You'll need it. Mia left the conference room with the evidence folder tucked under her arm. She passed agents typing reports and suit-clad lawyers, talking quietly in offices. The building felt like a maze of secrets. On the drive home, the rain had stopped. The streets glistened under the streetlights. Mia passed the turnoff for Redwood Hollow Estates and kept going, deciding to clear her head first at a small cafe on Maple Street. She parked and went inside, the bell over the door jingling. The cafe was warm and smelled of fresh bread. A few late-night customers read newspapers or tapped on laptops. Mia ordered a tea and sat by the window, opening the folder carefully. Inside were photos, documents, and handwritten notes. She spread them out on the table. The first photo showed a man shaking hands with a city council member at a ribbon-cutting ceremony. The next was a document with scribbled figures, large sums paid to an unnamed contractor. A note said, Payoffs 2018 to 2024. Keep off books. Mia's eyes darted from page to page. Each piece fit together like a puzzle. The crime ring was deep, entwined with city officials. People she'd seen wearing suits and smiling at community events might be corrupt. She sipped her tea, thinking of Alex. He believed that every officer was honest. He fought criminals on the streets, trusting that justice was fair. Mia felt a pang of sadness. The world was not fair, but maybe she could make it better. She gathered the papers and stuffed them back in the folder. She left a tip and walked back to her car. As she locked the door and started the engine, she saw a shadow slip behind a nearby truck. Her heart leapt. She grabbed her flashlight and stepped out. A figure darted around the back of the cafe. Rain began to fall again. Mia clicked on her beam and trained it on the puddles. She moved, quietly listening. Then she heard a soft grunt and saw the shadow of someone crawling out from under the truck. "Show yourself," Mia called. The figure froze. A man stood up, face hidden under a hood. He looked familiar. One of the city workers who had cleaned the streets in Redwood Hollow. His name was Carlos Monroe. He had always greeted Mia with a nod when she drove through the neighborhood. His face now was pale and tense. "Agent Torres," he said, voice trembling. "They sent me." Mia's pulse quickened. "Who sent you, Carlos?" He swallowed. "You shouldn't have the file. They want it back." Mia took a step closer. "Who?" Her voice was calm, but carried steel. "Tell me." Carlos glanced over his shoulder, then whispered, "City Councilman Grant. He's the one behind it. He'll kill anyone who exposes him." Mia felt ice in her veins. City Councilman Grant was respected, popular in the community. If he was involved, the conspiracy reached high. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Carlos's eyes filled with tears. "I believe in you. You saved my daughter when she got lost in the park. You helped the officers find her. I owe you. Please, keep that folder safe." Before Mia could reply, a sleek black car screeched to a halt at the cafe entrance. Two men in dark suits jumped out and ran toward them. Mia grabbed the folder and shoved it under her coat. She grabbed Carlos by the arm. "This way." They darted down the alley behind the cafe, rain hammering their backs. Footsteps pounded behind them. Shadows shifted on the wet walls. Mia's heart thundered in her ears. She turned a corner, nearly colliding with a dumpster. The two men in suits closed in. Mia pulled Carlos behind her and raised her flashlight like a weapon. "FBI, step back," she shouted. The men hesitated for a moment, then one lunged forward. Mia swung the light to the side, catching him on the shoulder. He yelped and stumbled. The other man charged. Mia shoved Carlos aside and grabbed a metal pipe lying on the ground. She swung the pipe at the man's legs. He fell, sliding on the slick pavement. Mia grabbed Carlos's hand and pulled him toward the alley's exit. They burst out onto Maple Street. Mia spotted her car, and Carlos's eyes followed. But before they reached it, a black SUV slid to a stop in front of them, headlights glaring. The door opened, and men in dark suits jumped out again, blocking their path. Mia pulled Carlos behind her and tightened her grip on the pipe. Her body trembled with adrenaline and fear. She knew they were outnumbered and trapped. She looked at Carlos. His face was pale, terror in his eyes. She felt her own courage steady. She would protect him. She would protect that folder. She raised the pipe above her head and shouted, "Stay back!" The men advanced. Rain dripped off the brim of Mia's hat. Her jaw tightened. She would fight with everything she had. Suddenly, headlights flooded the street from behind the SUV. Police cruisers screeched to a halt, lights strobing red and blue. Officers poured out, weapons drawn, surrounding the assailants. Mia exhaled, relief flooding her. Backup had arrived just in time. The men froze, and the officers moved in to arrest them. Carlos sank to his knees, shaking. Mia put a hand on his shoulder. "It's okay now," she said softly. "You're safe." The rain let up, leaving the street slick and shining under the police lights. Mia stood tall, pipe still in hand, heart pounding. She thought of Alex, of kindness, of justice, and she knew she was on the right path. But as she watched the suspects being cuffed, her radio crackled with a new alert. "Agent Torres, suspect in custody, has no record. His prints don't match the wounded man. We may have the wrong people." Mia's blood ran cold. Mia's blood turned to ice as the radio crackled again. "Agent Torres, suspect in custody, has no record. His prints don't match the wounded man. We may have the wrong people." Every muscle in Mia's body tensed. Just moments ago, she had breathed relief as the police cruisers arrived, surrounding the men in dark suits. Now, the possibility that they had captured innocents, men who might face danger and disgrace, hit her like a punch to the gut. She stepped forward, pipe still in hand, voice shaking as she addressed the lead officer. "Stand down. Do not place those men under arrest. Let me check them." Officers paused, guns lowering slowly, confusion flickering across faces. Mia dropped the pipe and approached the first man. He lay on the slick pavement, breathing hard, eyes wide with fear. His suit was torn, his face smudged with dirt. Mia knelt beside him and gently pried his hand open. "This is your print?" she asked. He nodded, too terrified to speak. Mia closed her eyes for a moment, remembering every lesson Alex had taught her. Always verify. Always protect the innocent. Always follow the evidence. She motioned to a nearby officer. "Get a fingerprint kit here, now, and preserve these prints." While they waited, Mia turned to the second man. He sat against the SUV's tire, clutching his arm where the pipe had struck him. She examined his wounds. Minor cuts and bruises, nothing life-threatening. She offered him water. He drank shakily, eyes flicking to Mia. "Why would Councilman Grant send you after me?" Mia asked quietly. The man swallowed, voice trembling. "He didn't. You have the wrong people." Mia's heart hammered. She glanced back at the chapel, dimly lit in the distance. The wounded suspect from the bushes was still in surgery. The real man with the briefcase, the one who knew the secrets, was still out there. And now she might have endangered two innocents. The fingerprint kit arrived. Officers spread out the stiff cards and brushes. Mia watched as they dusted the first man's palm and lifted his print. Then they ran his record, no match. They repeated the process for the second man, no match. One officer shook his head. "These aren't them, Agent Torres." Mia exhaled, feeling her legs go weak. She steadied herself against the SUV. "We need to find the real operatives, and fast." A hail of footsteps sounded as the two FBI agents arrived. The first agent scanned the scene, frowning. What happened? Mia pointed to the innocent men, now surrounded by concerned officers. "These two aren't our suspects. We've got a manhunt restarted." The second agent checked his radio. "We've got no sightings of the wounded man since the drive-by at the cafe." Mia clenched her fists. "He's smart. He's bleeding badly. He needs help. He's heading somewhere safe. Somewhere he trusts." She thought of places she knew. The old boat dock on Cedar Creek, the abandoned maintenance shed behind the fairgrounds, her father's old hunting cabin near Pine Ridge Road. Any of those might offer shelter. "Divide teams," Mia ordered. One team sweeps the hog farm along Pine Ridge. Another checks the creek dock. Send medical units to check remote clinics. He might have sought treatment somewhere off the books. Agents and officers snapped to attention, deploying as Mia directed. She watched the flurry of activity, adrenaline surging. Despite the mistake, she felt alive, focused. 2 hours later, Mia sat alone in the FBI Mobile Command post parked by Cedar Creek. A map was spread on the table in front of her, pins marking the search zones. She pored over the evidence folder, retracing every clue. Councilman Grant's name appeared in emails, expense reports, and a note in badly typed font. Project Nightshade, secure assets, eliminate leaks. Mia's stomach churned. Eliminate leaks. That could mean murder. She thought of Alex's last words, "Stay safe." She closed her eyes and pictured his face, kind and determined. She opened them again and picked up her phone. She dialed her father. It rang twice. Then he answered, voice heavy with worry. "Mia, are you okay?" "Dad," she said softly, "I made a mistake tonight. We detained 2 innocent men." There was silence, then he sighed. "I heard. Are you hurt?" "Physically, no. But I can't let innocent people suffer because of this." John Torres's voice cracked. "I'm so proud of you, Mia. You're doing something important. You can fix this." Mia pressed her forehead against the cool wall of the command post. "Thanks, Dad." She hung up, feeling the tension ease slightly. She turned back to the map. One red pin remained unchecked, the hunting cabin off Pine Ridge Road. She stood and grabbed her coat. "I'm going in," she told the first agent, who nodded and handed her a flashlight and radio. The drive to the cabin was rough. The gravel road twisted through dense pines. Headlights cut swaths of brightness through mist. Mia's knuckles whitened on the wheel as she replayed the wounded man's last words. "They'll kill me if I talk." She thought of Councilman Grant's power and influence. If he was willing to send hitmen, he might send more and more dangerous operatives. She parked at the fork leading to the cabin and grabbed her gear. The forest was silent except for the distant croak of frogs. Mia followed the narrow path, flashlight beam bouncing over roots and leaves. Her breath made puffs in the damp air. She reached the clearing. The cabin was dark, windows boarded. The porch sagged with splintered. Someone had barricaded the door. Mia pressed her ear to the boards. No sound except her own heartbeat. Carefully, she pried away a board and peered inside. The room was empty, dusty, but footprints trailed across the floor toward a back door. Mia moved in, ducking under low beams. She spotted fresh blood smear on the floorboards and a dark stain on the rug. She followed the trail out through the back door onto a narrow porch overlooking a small pond. Suddenly, a splash echoed from the water. Mia whipped her flashlight to the pond's edge. There, the wounded man struggled in the shallows, trying to pull himself onto a fallen log. His face was gaunt, eyes bright with desperation. "Over here!" Mia shouted. She crossed the porch and climbed down the bank. She reached him as he collapsed against the log. He coughed and blood froth bubbled at his lips. Mia pressed the radio button. Agent Torres to base found him. "He's alive, but critical. We need medevac to the cabin. Coordinates coming up." She turned to the man. "Hang on. Help is coming." She tore a strip from her sleeve and wrapped it tightly around his side to slow the bleeding. He closed his eyes, exhaustion and pain mixing on his face. Mia knelt beside him, voice soft. "You're safe now. Tell me who's in Project Nightshade. Tell me everything." He whispered hoarsely. Grant, his wife, the mayor. They all knew. They planned to launder money through the port and eliminate anyone who stood in their way. Mia stared at him, heart pounding. She took his hand. "You did the right thing coming here." A distant helicopter thumped overhead, growing louder. Mia stood and shone her beam upward, relief flooding her. A medevac team had arrived. As they lifted him onto a stretcher, his eyelids fluttered. Mia bent close. "Mia Torres," she said softly. "I promise justice." He nodded once, then closed his eyes. Mia watched the helicopter carry him away into the night sky. Behind her, the wind rustled the pines. The world felt dark and dangerous, but Mia's resolve burned bright. She would unravel every thread of Project Nightshade, expose Councilman Grant, and protect the innocent. She turned back to the cabin, where shadows clung to the walls and secrets waited to be uncovered. And then, from inside the cabin, came a sudden, earth-shaking roar. The roof exploded outward as a massive fireball erupted through the ceiling, flames licking the night sky. Mia was thrown off her feet by the blast, debris crashing around her. Dust and sparks filled the air. She scrambled backward, coughing, eyes watering. The cabin was engulfed in flame. Mia's heart stopped. The real evidence, the files in her folder, was inside, and now it might be lost forever. Mia lay on the damp grass, the shock of the blast rattling her bones. Sparks and embers fell around her like angry fireflies. The cabin's roof had blown skyward, leaving jagged beams and flaming timbers exposed to the night air. Mia coughed, her lungs burning from dust and smoke. She forced herself to sit up, water and soot dripping from her hair. She scanned the roaring fire. The cabin was full of secrets. The evidence folder she carried, her brother's memory, and now the dying man's final words. All that proof of Project Nightshade could be lost in the inferno. Mia's heart pounded. She had to save those files. She pushed to her feet, ignoring the ache in her legs. Heat licked at her coat as she moved closer to the burning doorway. Flames danced wildly behind her, consuming the walls and floor. She could hear wood snapping and the roar of the blaze growing louder. "Mia!" Agent Smith's voice cracked through her radio. "Are you all right? Fall back. It's about to collapse." Mia swallowed hard. She knew he was right. The cabin's front wall was about to give way. But she had a job to do. She clicked the radio on. "I have to get those files. They're the key to exposing Grant and the mayor. I can't let them die in here." There was a tremor in Smith's voice. "Negative. Get out now. We'll send in a team with gear." Mia's jaw tightened. She glanced at the burning ruins and thought of all the innocent people who would suffer if she failed. She pictured her brother Alex, proud and smiling. She pictured Father Miguel, saved by her quick thinking. She pictured Carlos Monroe's grateful eyes. She pictured her father's gentle face, believing in her. She pressed her hand to her chest, feeling her heart hammer. "Please," she whispered to the night, "let me save this." She slipped past the broken frame and into the cabin's entryway. Flames licked at her boots. Smoke filled her lungs. She coughed and blinked tears. The folder had been on a table in the middle of the room, under a beam that had fallen. She spotted it, charred at the edges but intact, under the collapsed table. She reached down and grabbed it, the manila folders rattling inside. She held it close to her chest. The cabin trembled. A large beam groaned and crashed behind her, sending a shower of sparks across her back. Mia yelped, stumbling but staying upright. She bolted toward the front door, flames closing in around her. She burst outside, coughing and gasping air. Behind her, the cabin roof caved in with a thunderous roar, sending a plume of smoke skyward. Mia dropped to her knees, clutching the folder. She panted, sweat and tears mixing with the soot on her face. She felt dizzy, but she forced herself to stand. Smith and the other agents rushed up, grabbing her arms and guiding her away from the blaze. "Got it?" Smith asked, concern in his eyes. Mia nodded, holding up the folder. "All of it." Smith let out a relieved breath. "Good. Now, let's get some distance." She allowed the agents to lead her back to the command post. She sank into a chair, folder on her lap, as the fire trucks arrived and began dousing the flames. The cabin burned down to embers, but Mia's heart burned even brighter with determination. A few hours later, the sky was beginning to lighten with dawn's pale glow. Mia sat at the conference table, the folder open in front of her. Agents and analysts crowded around, poring over the documents. The room smelled of coffee and disinfectant. Fatigue weighed on Mia's eyelids, but she pushed it aside. Councilman Grant's handwriting was on every folder. Payments, bribes, threats. There were emails arranging cash drop-offs at the port, notes about rigged bids, and a detailed plan to launder millions of dollars through shell companies. There were strike orders to silence anyone who knew too much. The folder tied Grant, the mayor, and other city officials to a vast corruption ring. Mia ran her finger down the list of names. Public Works Director, Finance Commissioner, Deputy Mayor, they were all involved. Mia shuddered. This went to the heart of the city government. If it ever came out, it would shake the entire state. But it had to come out. Agent Smith looked at Mia and nodded. "This is enough to get indictments. But we need witness statements to tie each person to actions, not just documents." Mia closed the folder. "We need the wounded man's full testimony. He was in surgery, but he'll talk if he knows we can protect him." She turned to the first agent. "Where is he now?" "In the safe house," the agent replied. "He's stable. He's agreed to a full debrief once he wakes." We'll have him on record soon. Mia exhaled. Good. While we wait, we need to prepare for fallout. Grant has power and allies. He'll fight back. He may leak or intimidate. We need press strategy, secure witness protection, and emergency funding to secure the port investigation. Smith rubbed his temple. Understood. I'll notify the assistant director. You rest briefly, then you'll lead the debrief. Mia nodded, exhausted but unable to rest. She stood and walked to the window overlooking the city skyline. The river gleamed under streetlights. Ships docked at the port where criminals had laundered cash. She thought of all the families who had lost trust in their leaders. She thought of her own family and how justice had saved her brother's memory from being forgotten. Then her phone buzzed. A message from her father. Dad, I'm proud of you. Meet me at home? John. Mia smiled, eyes moist. She typed back, on my way. Love, Mia. Mia drove home on the quiet streets, the sky now glowing pink and orange. She parked in her driveway at Redwood Hollow Estates and stepped out. The air was cool, birds already chirping. She walked up the path to her front door, carrying the evidence folder like a precious treasure. Inside, her father waited in the living room, sitting on the edge of the couch. He looked older, tired lines around his eyes, but his smile lit up the room. She set the folder on the coffee table. I did it, Dad. We got the files. We have the proof. He stood and hugged her tightly. I always knew you were more than a dispatcher. You're a hero, Mia. He stepped back, holding her shoulders. Your brother would be so proud. Mia fought back tears. Thanks, Dad. But there's more to do. They'll try to stop us. We need to protect everyone who's helped, including Carlos, the wounded man, even Father Miguel. She paused. And we need to watch Grant. He won't go down without a fight. John nodded gravely. I'll help any way I can. Mia smiled. It felt good to have her father by her side. I have a plan, she said, sitting at the table and opening her laptop. First, we secure the witnesses. Then we leak the story to an investigative reporter I trust. We let the public know what's been happening behind closed doors. Then we press the case through grand jury. Her father listened as Mia detailed each step. She talked about witness protection, secure locations, legal motions, coordinating with the state attorney. She even planned a discreet way to inform local news without alerting Grant's network. John nodded, impressed by her thoroughness. After an hour of planning, Mia closed her laptop. She leaned back in her chair, exhaustion finally catching up. I'm going to bed, she said. Tomorrow is the big interview. Her father stood and offered his hand. Walk me to the door. Mia took his hand, and they walked to the hall. Her bedroom was down the hall, the door open. She paused, looking at her reflection in the mirror. Soot on her cheek, a small cut on her eyebrow, lines of worry around her eyes. She touched her face, then squared her shoulders. She turned back to her father. Thanks for believing in me, Dad. He smiled and squeezed her hand. Always. She stepped into the hallway. As she reached for the light switch, her phone buzzed. She pulled it out. A text from an unknown number. Text. Stop the leaks or suffer the consequences. Grant. Mia's blood ran cold. She clenched her phone, knuckles white. She thought of her father waiting behind her, safe in their home. She thought of the witnesses, counting on her protection. She thought of the city that needed justice. She typed a reply. You won't win. Justice will be done. Mia Torres, FBI agent. No response. Mia pressed the light switch. The hallway lights flickered on. She set her phone on the nightstand and climbed into bed. She lay on her back, staring at the ceiling. Her heart still raced. She thought of the wounded man in the safe house, of Carlos's fear, of Father Miguel's faith, of her brother Alex's legacy. She whispered into the darkness, stay safe. A cold breeze drifted under the door. Mia pulled the covers tight. She closed her eyes. Then, from the shadows beyond the door, came a sudden, sharp knock, 3 soft taps that echoed in the silent hallway. Knock, knock, knock. Mia's eyes snapped open.